All right, here we go. So we're back, episode 8, and we were just chatting a little bit about previous episodes. And episode 6, I had to pull it up, and I let Boyd listen to the Beehive story because I was like, dude, this is just you got to listen to this. And so he was rolling out. He thought that was pretty good.
Oh, for heck's sakes.
Yeah, so. Good times, stealing bees, getting stung.
Yeah, that I did.
That's funny. So, how's everything else going for you? Enjoying the nice hot weather?
Yeah, it ain't too bad. I haven't been too patriotic yet. I still haven't shut my water off my lawn yet, but I'm thinking about it real hard.
Shutting it off or turning it on?
I know. I've got it on every night on my grass and flowers.
Well, that's how you keep them alive.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Yeah, I figured.
I figure, if I can afford to water my lawn, I should, because I like my lawn green.
Well, I like mine green too, but the neighbors, I think, are looking like I'm the only one in the neighborhood that has a green grass. So
That means you're baller. That's what it means.
there you go.
I can afford to water my lawn, so it's like, get over it. So you've been playing a lot of golf lately?
We played. I played 4 days this week. But I'm no good, but it's good to exercise.
There you go.
We're in the league, and it's amazing. It's amazing how with your handicap, how even it turns out. We played last night with one fellow had one of the team members had a 0 handicap, and the other one had 11. And mine's 14 for 9 holes, and my partner's was 15, and we won by 1 stroke. The last week when we played, it was about the same, and we lost by 1 stroke. So even though the ability is, some of them are a lot better than others, with the handicap, it works out pretty close.
That's cool. It makes it a lot more competitive, I guess, and fun.
Yeah, it makes it more even ways. Balances out your abilities. Me and my partner, we're by far the oldest ones in the league. He's 81. He'll be 82 next month, and I'm 77, and so they all laugh at these 2 old guys that are playing.
There you go. Don't laugh too hard if you're winning by 1 stroke, sucker. Have you always liked golf?
I haven't played very much until I retired. When I come back from South America from my mission, then my next door neighbor had a partner on this league, and he got cancer and passed away. And he asked me if I wanted to join him, and so I did. And we didn't do very well the first year. The max you can get on a handicap is 17, and that was my handicap, and because that's as high as it goes. So we didn't do very well, but it has dropped some. So we did okay.
So now you're at 14?
Yeah, 14's a handicap.
There you go. That's good progress.
Well, yeah, it was, because I was way up. For 9 holes, I was in the high 60s when I started, and now I'm in the low 50s.
There you go. That's good. Good for you. Do you have do you have golf clubs that you bought high end, or what kind of?
The golf clubs I got was there was a manufacturer of insulation work, and if you bought a whole truckload of insulation, then they gave you a set of golf clubs, And the guy who was the buyer came to me and asked me if I wanted the clubs because he didn't golf. And so I said, sure, I'll take them. So I took them home, and I played maybe 10 or 15 times before I retired, once or twice a year maybe. But we never even used to keep score.
Is that the same set of clubs you use?
Well, 2 years ago, I bought me a set of Callaways that I use now.
Okay. You like them? Or they?
I do.
What,
They're good. They're good clubs.
high end? I mean, low end, mid
They're
end.
they're mid level. They're
Okay.
pretty good clubs.
All right. Because I mean, here's the thing: you just had Father's Day, so all you people out there, if you're gonna look to buy this man a gift, and you say, "I never know what to get him," golf clubs.
Yeah. No, I don't think I need another set. I'm good.
Well, not like a whole set. I mean, but you can upgrade like your driver. Like you can get one of those super cool bubbles or whatever they're called. I don't know. I know nothing about golf. When it comes to golf, like I just one day I came in and a guy that I work with, Rob, he said, "You know what I think about golf?" And I was like, "What?" And he pulled out his wallet and started throwing 20s in the trash. And I was like, "Yeah, that's my man."
That sounds like a boat.
Oh yeah, no, I got a couple guys at the office. Guy just bought a boat today. So anyway, no, but balls. Do you lose a lot of balls? Maybe we get you some balls,
You know what?
golf balls. I mean,
What happens is usually if I hit it out in the rough, I go looking for my ball, and I usually find more than I lost. And I haven't. I've had somebody give me a couple of sleeves. John gave me a couple of sleeves of golf balls, but I've got a 3-gallon bucket right full of golf balls that I've just found, and I just pull those out. If I usually find, like I said, more than I ever lose.
no, that makes sense. And knowing what I know about you, if I was to get you a new driver, I would have to steal your old driver and break it because you tend to just keep using stuff and take the new stuff and set it aside.
You know what? It's funny you said that because when I bought the Callaways, it was the irons, and I bought a new driver to go with it. And I tried it, and I didn't do very well the first couple of times, and so I drug out my old driver. And there was a weight in the bottom of it, and I'd lost it. So I took some super glue and filled it in, and that's the one I'm using now. So you're right. I have a brand new driver sitting in the garage.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, there's I've done some loans for some guys that are golf pros. Anyway. They take you down and they hook you all up and get you dialed in and like make you swing, and it's pretty interesting. Anyway, that's a story that has nothing to do with kind of what we're here to talk about. So, last time we talked, we've talked quite a bit about like your childhood and just, lack of a better term, an Iron Man type situation. Like, when I think about, like, you talk about methalate, iodine, and that your dad just he gave it to all you kids, and sulfur pills for sore throats. It was like, you suck it up, rub some dirt on it, and move on with your day, And I remember, when I was a kid, you always talked about that you never, ever called into work sick. And never missed a day of work for being sick. And that was something I remember you used to talk about all the time, because I would be like, I don't feel good, I don't want to go to school. And you're like, I've never missed a day of work. And so what was the first day that you took sick?
Well, actually, I missed one day.
Oh, man. I'm shattered.
Yeah, really. What happened was I was a little bit under the weather, and I was going to go to work anyway, and your mother insisted that I stay home. So I stayed home one day out of the 40-something years I worked there. But there was one time when I took 2 or 3 weeks off. This is when I had a heart attack, and so I lost a few days then.
How old were you when you had your heart attack?
I was 46, I think, if I recall right. I was 46 years old, and I actually had two. The year before, I was up snowmobiling up to this friend's cabin up at by Heber up in and anyway, they had those boards. What are they called?
Snowboard?
Snowboard, yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? So anyway, they had the snowboard, and I'd never done one before, and they insisted that I try it. So you can't believe how hard it is to stand up with a snowboard when your feet are strapped in. And I'd start down the hill and then fall over and get back up, and after I'd been trying it for about a half an hour, they came back up with the snow machine and said, "I think you've had enough." And I said, "I'm getting to the bottom of this hill if it kills me." Well, it just so happened that by the time I got in the bottom of the hill, I had chest pains like you can't believe, and went back to the cabin, and I found out later that the owner thought I was going to die. She says she didn't want me dying in her cabin. But anyway,
So let's pause there. Did you go to the doctor? Did you
did not. No, I spent the night there, and we got up the next morning and went snow machine. But I was so weak that I was afraid I might get the snow machine stuck, and I didn't think I was going to be able to get it out. But we had to snowmobile out. There was no roads into it. We snowmobiled in and spent the night, and then came out a couple of days later. But anyway, I just went home and it went to bed, and within 4 or 5 days, I felt okay again. And then a couple of years later, the following year actually, I was pouring some cement, and I needed some sand and some gravel. We were mixing it ourselves, and I called the gravel pit, and they said, "We close at 6." And I says, "Well, if you close at 6, does that mean you close the gate at 6? Can I still stay, or is that you have to be out by 6?" And she said, "You got to be out by 6." So I hopped in the pickup. It was after work, and went out there, and I went to the sand pile and shoveled as hard as I could go for 15 minutes. I got there at 5:30. And then went over to the gravel pit and started shoveling as hard as I could go for 15 minutes until I got about an equal amount what I needed to pour the cement. And when I got home, then I had these chest pains again. And I mean, I was hurting again. My chest was as bad as it was. And so my next door neighbor was a nurse. And my wife called her, and she came over.
Did she come over that night?
Yeah, just after I got home, we'd gone to one of those meetings, community meetings, down at the zoning meeting type thing. And anyway, I left early and it came home, and she went over and got the nurse, and she came over, said, asked the symptoms, and I told her. She says, "You need to go get checked." And I says, "I'm going to bed." She says, you're going to the hospital and get checked, or I'm going home and call 911 and send them to your house. So I said, oh, I don't want no ambulance and that in the driveway. So I got in the car and drove down to the hospital, and they had me on the table with monitors and stuff. And they said, not only are you having a heart attack, you've already had one in the back. 20% of your heart's gone. It's dead.
So let's back up for a second. So you drove to the hospital. Did Jeanette and your neighbor go with you?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they were there. I drove the car, but they were there.
And when you got to the door of the hospital, what did you do?
I opened the door and held it open for them guys to walk in.
That's a part of the story. It's like you gotta hit that detail, man. It's like you're having a heart attack and you're holding the door, driving to the hospital.
Well, I was a little sick, but I was still standing. And anyway, they told me that 90% of my heart was gone.
So I feel like we're fast forwarding really, really quick on this one. So let's slow down just a second. And so you got to the hospital. When you got there, you checked in. I mean, was it like I don't even know what they call them, code 5, code red, whatever.
I have no idea. What
Did
they called it. I just went up the desk and told them I had chest pains. And they said, okay, come with me. And I don't know.
Did they take you into a room? Did they immediately start freaking out? Or?
No, nobody freaked out. Nobody. So they just took me into a room and had me lay down. And then they started putting these monitors on me and took some blood tests. And that's when they told me, yeah, you're having a heart attack. And
so you were having one right then?
Yeah, it was going on right then. And so I spent the night there, and it was up at a hospital out in Riverton. No, it was not Riverton. It was up in Sandy. And the next day, Jeanette had me transferred up to the University of Utah hospital. And she figured that was a little better than the hospital where we were at.
Were you at the U or were you at LDS?
Because, no, I was at the U.
Because you were at LDS when you had that first one. And that I know, because I came and saw you twice a day.
That was when I had the bypass surgery.
No, because you had the bypass at the University of Utah.
No, I didn't.
All right.
No, what happened is I went to the University of Utah. That's where they transferred me, and they told me that I had 90% of my heart was gone. See, and then they came back and said the next morning. Well, that afternoon I got to add, my brothers came to see me, and gave me a blessing. And the next morning, when the doctor came in to check me, he asked me if I was on drugs. And I told him no. He said, are you sure? Because last night when you came in, you said you needed a Coke. And I says, a Coke as in Coca-Cola. So then I said, why do I ask? And he said, well, sometimes if they're on drugs, it'll make it look like your heart is dead, but when the drugs wear off, then the heart comes back. And so they told me that all the symptoms had gone away, and the only thing that was wrong was the back 20% was still dead. But when I got to the University of Utah, they gave me 2 to 3 years to live. Because I was asking them what I could do, and they said, can I ride? Can I hunt? They told me no. And finally I asked them if I could water ski, and they said, well, if you get in right behind the boat and don't get out of the wake, and just let go of the rope and settle in the water. You might get away with that. And I said, geez, let me out of this bed. I don't want to live like that. So anyway, then they told me it came back, and the doctor I had said it was a spasm of the artery, that it was like a Charlie horse that would just spasm and shut the blood off, and there was nothing wrong with my heart. And so so I could do what I wanted. Well, I kept having these chest pains, and I complained about them. And he said, I don't know what your chest pains are, but it's not your heart. But then we went down to Lake Powell, and I was having trouble over the 4th of July making it up through the sand to go to the outdoor privies that was there. And so when I got home, I was supposed to go backpacking into the Wind Rivers. We'd go in every year and go in about 5 or 6 miles with our tents and all that, and then day pack from there. So I was a little nervous about that because I was having so many chest pains, and so I called my little brother. And Mervyn at that time was over at the missionary department, and he answered questions from the mission presidents in South America that couldn't handle problems themselves. And a lot of them were medical problems. So he had a doctor that he would call, and he would help him out, just give him instructions right there. So anyway, I called Mervyn because he was kind of taking care of Mom, and Mom had an enlarged heart. And I told him I wanted to know who Mom's doctor was, and he said, why do you want to know? So I told him. And he said, hang on a minute. And the next thing I know is this guy comes on the phone, and he says, this is Dr. Harris. How may I help you? And so they had me give him the symptoms, and he says, well, it might not be your heart, but you're too young to be having chest pains, so come on in. And so,
how old were you at this time?
About 48. See, it was a couple of years when I did add that, and so I went in, and they checked me, and that doctor was funny. I mean, he's tapping me on my legs and all that stuff, and doing a physical on me. He sticks his watch up to my ear, and he says, "Can you hear that?" I said, "No." So he kept going around. Pretty soon he put it up the other. "Can you hear it now?" And I said, "Nope." And he says, "Well, it's a good thing because it's an electric watch." And then he keeps tapping around and going around, and then he says, "Do you have a little guy that sits on your shoulder and tells you what to do?" And I just burst right out laughing. And he said, "You'd be surprised some of the answers I get to that question." So anyway, he says, "Well, we'll put you up on the treadmill, and that'll tell us." So they went and gave me a stress test, and I wasn't on that thing more than about, 15 or 20 seconds, and they had me on my back with nitro under my tongue. This was like on a Wednesday. Thursday, I went up to the hospital, and they checked me in Thursday night, and Friday morning they did an angiogram, and the doctor came in about noon, and he said, "You need bypass surgery." And I says, "Okay, when are you going to do it?" He said, 4 o'clock. I said, "Today?" And he said, and that was up at the LDS hospital, as where, and that's when you come to see me. I was up at the U.
Yeah, if you were at the U, then that's when I came and saw you, because I was 16. It was the summer after I turned 16.
Well, okay.
And that's when I used to bring you, that's when I brought you the Diet Coke.
Coke. Yeah, I remember you coming up because they told me, I said, when I remember you being there, because I said, they brought me my food, and I says, I need some salt. And they said, you can't have it. And I says, why not? They says, well, because it's hard for it's bad on your high blood pressure. I says, I don't have high blood pressure. Kid, run down to the cafeteria and get me some salt. And so, you went down and got me some salt and brought me some Coke, and I remember all that very well. But I thought it was after I had the bypass surgery.
Yeah, no, that was right when you first had the heart attack. And you were the only person in ICU that had flowers, because they don't allow flowers in ICU. And I brought you flowers. And I was there that night that the doctor told you about your heart and how bad it was. And like, because we had chatted, and they had told you, because I remember very well. It was before the opener of duck season. It was about 2 weeks before.
It was, you're right.
And you gave me the key to the duck club and told me that, to take the key because you were going to be able to go. Because that's, that was the night, because the doctor came in earlier that day and had talked to you about what happens to your heart when it's dead, is the other portion of your heart actually grows.
Yeah.
And so they had this big drawing on your a razor board, and the doctor came in, and you had said prior to that, I'm going to get that mother effer pumping again. Because you were a little more profane in front of me than maybe, I don't know, other people. But that is what it is with being youngest. I swear more in front of Sawyer than I do any of my other kids. It's natural.
There you go.
He tells me all the time it doesn't bother him. So when the doctor came in, you had talked to him and said, about getting it going. And he was like, no, that's not how it works. Like, if it gets bigger, that's bad. He's all, because it's not going to work that way, and like basically shut it down. And I remember leaving that night, because when I left, it was pretty heavy. I mean, it was very dejecting for you, because I mean, that's when they were like, dude, you're done. Like, you can't, no. That's not how it rolls. Like, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And that's when you gave me the duck club key, because I left there and went and hung out with some of my homies, and like one of my good friends at the time, I sat and like, I just remember freaking telling him about it and just, sobbing, because I mean, you gave me the duck club key. That's like, basically it was like, yeah, this is it. And like anyway, so yeah, I remember that very, very, very vividly. And the fact that the next day Paul and Bob and Merv, and I don't remember, was John there?
No, he was in Hawaii.
Yeah, they came and gave you a blessing. And then They did. I remember they did your angiogram, because you had to lay still with a sandbag on your leg afterwards, so you didn't bleed out.
Oh yeah.
And that's when they said that they had misread your ultrasound, and that it had, for various different reasons, they had all kind of different theories. Like you said, drugs. Whether the ultrasound bounced back through for some other reason or whatnot, but that your heart wasn't 90% dead, that you were okay and you were going to be okay. And anyway, that's the part I remember very well, because as far as a life-changing event, I know you had some, and we'll get into that, but it was a life-changing event for me, because prior to that, we really didn't spend much time together. And so it was, I went and saw you in the hospital twice a day, until you got released.
I remember that very well.
So that's why, I'm willing to lay a substantial amount of money that it was LDS Hospital, but I've been known to be wrong. Just ask my wife; she'll tell you.
Yeah, it was the university. It was Dr. Barry up there at the university. In fact, he was head of that was my cardiologist, and he was head of the research department for the University of Utah Hospital. And then I went with Dr. Harris. It was just a GP, and he referred me over to Dr. Fowles, who is my current doctor. I still see him every year. And they operated out of the LDS hospital, but now they go to the new IHC that's over in Murray.
The Death Star.
Yeah, that's the one.
I call it the Death Star, like a lot of people do, just because it's a Star Wars reference. It's not that you're going to die there. It's just, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that was Pioneer Valley in my day.
Yeah, no, it still is.
Yeah, really.
So, anyway, so you were, you had your bypass surgery. How long did it take you to recover from that?
From the bypass surgery, not very long, a couple of 3 weeks, and then I was back out again. I had to carry I was on oxygen for a while, which wasn't all that bad. I mean, they had an umbilical cord that I had to drag around with me everywhere, but it was a big, long one, and they had a 50-gallon tank of oxygen, but I could make it out to the patio. And when I had the bypass surgery, it was in July, because I was supposed to go backpacking on the 24th. And anyway, I go out on the patio and watch the fish, and I had a little pond there, and read a book, and the wife would bring me out snacks and stuff. It wasn't all that bad. I got used to it pretty quick, actually. But then I was off from work for a couple of weeks.
And that's the pond. So you were enjoying the pond after your bypass that caused the original heart attack. Am I right? Is that what you were pouring the concrete for?
No, the concrete was lawn edging.
Oh, okay. Well, not the same. Lawn edging you can't enjoy when you're, sucking oxygen. Fish ponds you can.
There you go.
So, well, that's crazy. And how many was it? What was your bypass count?
A triple. I had a triple bypass.
That's impressive. It's not a quadruple, but I mean, it's still impressive.
You know what's amazing about it too is that when I had my bypass surgery, now this is going to be tough because they told me how long it was going to last. I asked the doctor. I says, "Okay, I'm having bypass surgery. How long is this good for?" Well, he kind of hem-hawed around, and I says, "Well, what's average?" He says, 7 to 10. It's been 20-something years ago, and I haven't had a minute's problem since.
It's seriously modern medicine. It's amazing.
Yep.
The difference in what they can do and different things like that. It's just crazy. So I mean, today I don't know. They might not even have had to crack you open.
Probably stents or something.
Yeah,
they didn't have those. They had. They did balloons type of a thing. They'd run a thing up in there, and then they'd pump it up with air or something and try to open the arteries back up that way. But they didn't always stay. See, then it could collapse again. And then they started using stents as like putting a little piece of hose up inside of it that held it open that way. But, they did. They cracked them with me.
Oh yeah, no, it's wild. I remember, watching the range of motion and different things like that. Overcoming all those. Those pains.
The lousy thing about it was I had kind of a pigeon breast when I was born, And when they did the bypass surgery, they split it right down the middle of the sternum, and when they put it back together, then I didn't have a pigeon breast anymore, and I thought it was half worth it to do it. Then about a month or two after I got out of the hospital, I went to lift something, and a hernia type of a bubble popped out where they left a hole in where they put a hose in there. It was about the size of a garden hose, a little smaller than that, to drain the fluids out of my chest. And they pulled that out, and it healed over, but then it popped out, and so I can't do setups now because it puts a strain on that spot, and it pokes out quite a bit. So I didn't gain anything on that one. I just had the pigeon breast back.
There you go. But the whole point and purpose behind this story is the level of BAMF that, I mean, a man can just not go to the doctor over a heart attack and then has a heart attack and doesn't go to the doctor and then is forced to go to the doctor and still like holds the door open. That's probably like one of my favorite parts of the whole story is like that you drove yourself to the hospital having a heart attack and held the door open for your wife and your neighbor.
When they really gave me a tough time when I went up to the LDS hospital because I called them up because they scheduled this angiogram, and I went to work the next day, and because I didn't have to check in until about 5 o'clock at night, and I says, well, if there's nothing wrong, I says, can I leave my car up there? And they said, yeah, that'd be okay. And then I decided, yeah, right, they'll come and tow it after a couple of days if I have to stay in. So I had old Steve Peterson run me up and drop me off at the front door. I went up the stairs and went to check in, and the lady says, you're the guy with the chest pains that are driving yourself up here? You got to be kidding me. And they threw me in a wheelchair and wheeled me up. But anyway.
That's funny. I'm just telling you, there's a we get it. That's where we get it. It's just, lack of a better term, is just high tolerance level of pain, and it's just, I don't know, it's an expectation, I would say.
There you go.
It's like,
well, my dad always told me, if it's not bleeding, shut up. It doesn't count. If you don't cry unless it's bleeding, and then you get a few minutes, then that's enough.
well, you told the story about him cutting your hand in the middle of church, and like, you didn't even get a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't cry in church. That looked bad. Wouldn't it?
Almost lose a finger. Yeah, it's church.
There you go.
That's funny. So, anyway, I thought that talking about some of those things, just crazy, interesting, and after you had your heart attack and you had this bypass, what kind of you talked about that it was a wake up call, but what stemmed from that? I mean, what did you see change in your life after that?
Well, I got a little more religious. I started to look at my life a little bit. Decided it was about time that I straightened it up.
Absolutely, I get that. How long after your heart attack did you start, before you started going to church and back to church?
It was actually a couple of years before I started going back. I really never got real active until I got divorced from Jeanette, my second wife, and then I decided there was no reason why I shouldn't go. One of the things I remember is I always heard that at the end of the world there was going to be the sun was going to turn blood red. and I'm coming home from work, and I was always gonna, repent and get my life back in order. And unbeknownst to me, there was a big fire out in Skull Valley across the mountain. And there was so much smoke in that, and the sun was going down, and I saw that, and it was blood red. And I thought, oh dear, I waited too long. But as it turned out, it was smoke and mirrors, and so I was okay for a while.
There you go. I'm still, there's other signs I'm waiting for, before I go to my repentance mode.
There you go. There you go.
So that's great. And so anyway, yeah, big life-changing event for you. So I thought it was important to get some of the details on that and have you share that. But anyway, so, but ultimately the thing that it didn't change was your ability to hunt. And you've had a lot of things that you've hunted. I mean, I go down in your basement, and my business partner always calls them dead animals. Hunters, they call them mounts. I'm kind of an intermix between both. I call them mounts and dead animals. It just depends on the moment. But what is your favorite thing that you hunted?
Now you're talking birds?
Big game. Let's talk big game. Because, birds is... that's just kind of, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that is hunting. That's more like...
it's funny, though. Duck hunting, when I was younger, was my very favorite thing to do. But maybe it's because I got to do it more than once. You don't just have the opener. But I don't know. There's been several... I decided to hunt cougar, and so I was at the SCI show down in Reno, and hooked up with a guide down there, and we went over, being another guy, Rick Eskelson was his name, is signed up to go, and we went over, and most of the time you think about cougar hunting is what I'd heard is you get dogs and you go out in the snow and you find a track, you put the dog on the track, it follows the cat and it run it up a tree and you go shoot it from under the tree. Well, I found out it wasn't quite that easy. We hired these guys and we actually were on horseback, and we were riding, looking for tracks and stuff, and had dogs. And I was on this horse, and of course, I was the last in the string. And we're going up in the mountains up there, and it was in the wintertime, and I wasn't paying any attention because this horse had its nose in the tail of the one that's in head of it, just going up the thing. And anyway, they'd packed us a lunch and stuff, and we were out all day riding around looking for tracks. And the horse stepped on some ice and slipped and went down. And I fell off the back end of the horse, and it was coming up, and I just knew it was going to get on top of me. And so... man, I'm telling you, I'm crawling as fast as I can go in the opposite direction. And it was quite a steep hill, and the horse rolled over and started rolling down the hill, just until it got caught in some sagebrush. And it was, I'm looking down the hill, 50, 75 yards down the hill, and there's this horse, and all four legs are straight in the air. And I thought it was dead. I mean, it wasn't moving at all. So the guide, he goes down there, and come to find out, a horse on its back can't move, and it was just, so he got it rolled over, and when he tipped it over, it started rolling again and rolled down the hill some more until it hit a tree. And so this time when he got down there, he got a hold of the the bridle and held the head onto the head, so that when it rolled over again, it actually, the back end rolled downhill a little bit, and then it stood up, and then they brought it back up, and I got back on. We took off.
And I would think that, I don't mean to cut you off, but like if I was riding a horse and it did that and I watched it do it, I think that's like, if my Prius broke down, I wouldn't get back in that damn thing. I'm just saying.
Well, the thing that was bad about it was it smashed my lunch. I didn't, and it actually cracked the stock on my rifle also, but it didn't hurt it. I took it and took it to the gunsmith, and he had it fixed up okay. But anyway, we hunted there and never did any good. I mean, we hunted for 6 days and never did any good. The problem with the scent is the conditions have got to be just about exactly right, because on hardpack snow, if it's melted a little bit and then refroze, and it's not fresh, then the scent burns off real quick. If it's wet snow, then the scent stays in the snow and you have a lot better chance. And so anyway, we didn't do any good. So the next year I hired another guy, and he was a guaranteed hunt. And he said, if we don't get one this year, well, then you won't have to pay next year. So I went with him, and that was over by Mesquite, and they didn't have very much snow. In fact, we were hunting on just bare dirt, and what they would do is they had an old box spring from a mattress spring, it's just the metal ones, and they hooked it behind a Jeep, and they would drag it after dark up and down the dirt roads. And then before daylight, the next morning, they'd get up with flashlights and go up and down these dirt roads looking for a track that had crossed in the dirt and we did that for 4 or 5 days and never had any luck. And so the next year I went back again, and this time we got on one right away, but usually you tree them by the dogs, and then you go get the dogs and get them out from underneath the tree, and then you shoot them out of the tree in case they are still alive when they come down. The dogs won't get on the cat; they'll go after and try to kill it.
What kind of dogs did they?
They're hounds. They're hunting dogs. They're trained just for that. Cougars and bears and.
So did they make the cool howling sounds? Like,
yeah, they do. Yeah, they really do. Yeah, they do. And they have trackers on them too, because they get on a scent and they won't let it off. And so, but they had trackers on the collars, and so they knew where they were at. But anyway, I went there and the next year, and we got on one, and it was up in a tree, but the hillside was real close to it, and instead of going underneath the tree, they was afraid that if we got too close, it'd jump. It wasn't that far because it was a steep hill, and then there was a pine tree there, and it wasn't that far from the top of the pine tree over to the hillside. So I shot it from across the valley from the other side. He says, "You think you can hit it from here?" And I says, "Get out of the road." So anyway, that's how that was a real exciting hunt. That was when I went bear hunting. That was
hold on. Let's back up to the cougar here for a second. So after you shot it, did it die like immediately, or did it fall out of the tree? Or?
It fell out. Yeah, it dropped out of the tree, but it was. I'd shot it right through the vitals, and it was on its way out. But it hit the ground, and the dogs were on it, and they were afraid to go get the dogs even for fear that it'd jump, and we'd done it long enough. So anyway, the cougar had one with its claws around it, and had a couple of it through its lips, dragging it in. It was gonna kill it, but it died before. It was a good shot. Yeah, the dogs got a little bit banged up right there, but I didn't have to shoot it twice. No.
There you go. And did you wear it around your neck after you shot it?
Oh, I picked it up, and they had a few pictures taken of it. Yeah, but I didn't hang it around my neck. No.
What? I swear I've seen a picture with you got it around your shoulders.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember. That's been a long time ago, kid.
Oh man, but that's one of those epic photos that you just. I mean, that should be like a 10 by 10 photo on your wall. You know?
But anyway, bear hunting was an experience. I went up to Canada, with a friend of mine, and what they did is,
what part of Canada?
it was Saskatoon is where it was the name of the town. It was right by Prince Albert's National Park up there. It was about like Yellowstone would be. I mean, you had no guns allowed or anything. And there were a lot of bears in there, like Yellowstone used to have. And the guide had a tree stand that was about 50 yards from the fence line for this preserve. And what he did is you'd sit in a tree, and they had a bait barrel, is what they called it, and he'd fill it up with all kinds of like donuts and bread and all kinds of stuff. And then he would take molasses and spread it all around the outside of the barrel, so that if a bear came in and then went back into the park, in hopes that other bears would smell the molasses and follow it back, and bring it back to the bait barrel. But the problem is they didn't always come. And so what they did is they put you in a tree stand, and you had a bait barrel out there, and you're standing up in this tree, and you're looking at this barrel that's about 75 yards wide in the middle of a forest, and all you can see is it's like a deer trail there, and you're looking at this barrel all day. And you couldn't get down for anything. I mean, because it had one guy he told us about that got down and got bored, climbed down out of the tree, went over by the barrel, looked around, come back, climbed up the tree, and pretty soon here come this scrubby old bear, and went around and smelt him and followed him back to the tree and started up the tree. And he had to shoot it, and he didn't especially want that bear, but it was better than being eaten by the bear, I guess. So anyway, I'm sitting there for 6 days and never saw anything. And I can't tell you how boring that is. I had a sack of jelly beans, and I sorted them all out in color order, and then I started eating the ones that I had the most of until they were all the same. But I would eat one and the jelly bean and try to make it last for 2 minutes. And if I didn't make it, then I penalized myself 3 minutes before I could have another one. And that's, but anyway, so I never got one. And the next year, that was in the spring, that was a spring bear hunt. And one thing about bears is when I hear people say, well, I got a 300-pound bear, that doesn't mean squat. What they do is when they skin them out and they measure them from the tip of the tail to the nose, and then they lay them out, and from the front legs They measure that and then add them together and divide them by 2, and that's the size of the bear. So you get a 6-foot bear or a 7-foot bear. You don't get a 300-pound bear because bears change weight from the spring to the fall by 25, 30, 40%, depending on how much they fatten up for the winter. So anyway. So the next year, I went back. He felt bad. I was the only one that didn't get one. There were like 5 of us. I'm the only one that didn't even see one. So he had me come back that fall. And as it turned out, that was the best because it was the bears don't come out to play till about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so we got up at daylight and went hunting geese, and we were shooting between 30 and 40 geese every morning before I'd go out and go bear hunting. And on the second day, I shot one that was a pretty nice bear. That's the one I mounted. And
what, was it 300 pounds?
I think it was actually bigger than that. It was a pretty nice bear.
How big was it? I mean, like, 6, 7, 10,
it
22
was about
feet?
6'5", yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a pretty good sized bear. But anyway, I went back once more and shot a smaller one. The bigger bear, I had a shoulder mount made out of it, and the other one is I got a bear rug laying out on the floor, and it's not a real big one. But anyway, it's now one other time we went up to Corn Creek up in Idaho. Is the name of the little town that we took off from, and they went down the Salmon River about 5 miles and stayed in this lodge. And there it was just spot and stalk. You just wander around just like you do deer hunting and try to find a bear and then shoot it. We were 8 barrels. It was, and man, that was steep. I saw one, but I never. I ran and got the kid I was with, and because I wanted him to get one. I already had 2, and the meat isn't all that good. I ate it. I ate it. The front end out of it, but no, the back end. It was the hindquarters on the bear, and same with the cougar.
I remember eating the cougar.
Yeah.
I came to your house. That was before you got remarried, and we ate some of that cougar.
Yeah. I had some of it made into jerky and gave that out too.
Yeah, I probably would have given a lot of that out.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Oh, whatever. That was terrible. I remember you soaked it in Italian dressing.
Yeah, and cooked it up, yeah.
Like all day and all night to try to get the flavor out of it.
It's kind of has a sweet taste to it. The bear meat was really quite good. What we did with that was barbecued it, wrapped it in bacon strips and barbecued it, and it turned out pretty good actually.
Well, I would think a bear that was eating donuts and bread and molasses would probably have better flavored meat than a cougar. It's just throwing it out there.
Well, I don't know if that was a steady diet.
Well, 8 barrel, baby.
There you go.
Speaking of, let's back up on the bear for a second. So you went up the second time in the fall. Did you take another bag of jelly beans, or what did you do this time?
Now, that one I learned. I took a couple of Louis L'Amour novels, and I'm up there in the tree, and I practiced so I could read. And I think that was part of the problem before, is that I kept moving around. It's hard just to sit there, and so...
Especially when you're running out of orange jelly beans, because the orange ones are the best.
Yeah. So what I did is I took a couple of novels and had them set up so that it figured out so that if I looked over the top of the book and there was a bear there, I could just drop and it would slide inside of the jacket that I was wearing, and I could bring the rifle up, and I practiced that quite a bit so that. And then I was engrossed in the book and didn't move around, and so that it made it a lot easier to do it. And then I shot the bear on the second day, so it wasn't like I had to spend 6 days up there.
Yeah, I can only imagine if you wouldn't have shot the bear, how many seconds you would have penalized yourself for minutes. I can't shoot a bear for at least 10 minutes because I missed that bear.
Well, they weren't that far off. The bait barrel was pretty close, and what they did had a barrel actually, and then they would take poles, limbs and stuff and stack them like a teepee over the barrel and slide some through it, so the bear could get to it, but it had to work at it. And so that's what they told us. You wait until for a good shot. It isn't like the bear could run in and grab it and run. It had to work to get it, and you could tell some of those bears had been there before because they'd bump a log and then jump back because they'd been conked on the head before with it or something. But anyway, so we waited until we had a broadside. So they told us those bears are tough. So what they told us is you shoot it in the front shoulder, and so that it breaks its legs down so that it can't run. It can't go very far. You don't shoot for the vitals. They'll go run too far, and then you have to try to find them. So, but anyway.
So is that where you shot it? It broke its legs?
Yeah, shot it right in the front shoulder.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. And did your bear run?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it still took off, but it didn't go very far, maybe 30, 40 yards, something like that. It was pretty close.
That's good. And then did anything get at it? Or
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's good. That's interesting. I mean, you told me about bear hunting and different things, but I didn't know.
Well, that was actually the one that I got hanging on the wall. I shot that one, and it ran off. And the guide came to pick me up, and it was after dark. And so that one, you're right. It laid there all night, and when we got back the next day, there was the coyotes had got on the back end a little bit, and that's why it actually is the shoulder mount, because I wanted to make a bear rug out of it. But as it turned out, it was quite a unique bear. It had a big white spot on its chest, and if you could cut that in half to make a rug out of it, it wouldn't have turned out nearly so well. So I was happy with what happened.
Oh, yeah. No, it's super dope mount. So, dead animal.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, but, well, sweet. That's our time. And honestly, some great stories tonight, and talking about life-changing events and bear hunting and cougars, and maybe next time we can talk about some crows and a couple other things, so we will definitely circle back, and shout out to my man Marcus for such a dope facility for us to come down and talk in. And anyway, but you got anything else to add?
Nope, that's good.
Well, happy Father's Day last week also.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Throw that out there. And so anyway, we'll catch you on the next one, and y'all have a great night.